everything around Max Verstappen's future just got a whole lot more unpredictable. The four-time champion might actually be preparing for something no one thought would really happen, driving in silver instead of red and blue. After what went down in Austria, mixed with the statements coming from George Russell and Toto Wolff, things have started pointing towards a possible switch to Mercedes. If that's where Max ends up in 2026, one big question hangs over the team. What happens to Russell? People laughed it off at first, called it gossip, said Toto had lost the plot. But now, it doesn't sound that crazy anymore, especially after Russell casually admitted there have been talks with Max, and it didn't even bother him. That alone speaks volumes. When the fastest driver becomes available, no team in their right mind is going to sit back and do nothing. Then came the Austrian GP. Watching that race gave even more reasons why Max might want to distance himself from his current garage. Blame doesn't entirely rest on Red Bull. The move by Antonelli was reckless. Diving into the corner and locking up felt way too similar to what Bottas did in Hungary 2021. And just like that time, Max ended up as the unlucky target again. Most expected Max to lose it. A DNF at this stage could be the final blow in the championship fight. But surprisingly, he stayed calm. New shouting, new public outrage. Instead, he hugged Antonelli and heard him out. Sure, he's known to be kind to younger drivers, but doing that right after a crash? That's something else. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just about being nice. Maybe it had something to do with where he might be headed next. Not long ago, Toto Wolff looked fully committed to the idea of keeping George Russell and Andrea Antonelli as his go-to drivers for the coming seasons. But after what we've seen recently, that confidence might be wearing thin. Max seems to be realizing something crucial. His time at Red Bull may have already peaked. He climbed a mountain, won titles, and even managed to clinch a fourth championship in a car that wasn't even top 2 in the constructors' standings. That chapter might be closing. When Wolff spoke about bringing Max in before the new rules come into play in 2026, he didn't leave much room for doubt. His approach was clear. Mercedes is open, honest, and forward-thinking. According to him, the team operates with full transparency, and this potential move is just part of planning for what lies ahead. He emphasized how satisfied he is with George and Kimi, but at the same time, he also made one thing clear. Nothing is set in stone. Having two competitive drivers fighting for the same goal can bring both success and chaos. He's seen it firsthand with Rosberg and Hamilton. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but when someone like Max becomes an option, even the most stable setups start to shake. Meanwhile, Helmut Marko, the man often seen stirring the pot, had his own thoughts on this swirling storm. While his words usually come with drama, when it involves Max, people do pay attention. He knows Max better than most inside Red Bull, so when he admits that Mercedes could be a real possibility for 2026, you can be sure there's more to it behind the scenes than what's being said publicly. And Marko's warning? It's loud and clear. Max may have a lot of freedom where he is now, something that won't come easy at a team like Mercedes. But the question remains, is that freedom worth more than a shot at winning again? Toto Wolff isn't someone who gets fooled by short-term issues. He's been part of the sport long enough to recognize when an opportunity shows up, and when it comes to Max, he won't let that slip away easily. Whether it's Red Bull or Mercedes, both teams understand the value of having someone like Max leading their campaign. And now that there's even a slight opening, Wolff is already making his move behind closed doors. Russell's casual attitude toward the whole situation is another indicator. When a driver says, conversations are normal, it means they're happening, just not in front of the cameras. There isn't much time either. Some reports say that by Silverstone, just a week away, we might have a clearer picture of what's really going on with Mercedes' future. If that happens, Red Bull won't be the only team impacted. Losing Max would be a massive blow. He isn't just their best driver, he's the central figure around which the entire project has been built. Without him, it's hard to see them staying on top, no matter how good their engineering team is, or who replaces him in the seat. It's no secret that Russell is also deeply affected by all this. He knows that Max arriving at Mercedes changes everything. Their past battles on track, like the one in Barcelona, showed that Russell is willing to fight, even with a slower car. But when we talk about performance over a full season, both in drivers and constructors standings, the edge still belongs to Max. Toto once passed on signing Max back in his teenage years, giving Red Bull the opening they needed. Now, with Max potentially unsettled, Wolff is ready to correct that mistake and do whatever it takes to bring him to Brackley. Russell isn't hiding from the spotlight. He's well aware that these talks are happening, but instead of letting it shake him, he's keeping his focus sharp. He recently said that as long as he's delivering solid results, there's no reason for him to worry. In his words, every team has 2 seats, and if he's doing his job right, he believes he deserves one of them. Toto has also been clear with him. According to Russell, Wolff told him that only one other driver on the grid is up for comparison when it comes to performance, and that's Max. These aren't George's own claims. He made sure to mention that, but the message is obvious. Toto still values Russell highly, but he's also keeping the door open for Max. Should the chance arise, Russell's current standing speaks volumes. After the Austrian Grand Prix, he's just 9 points behind Max. In the championship, that's impressive by any standard. On one hand, it shows how much Russell has grown. On the other, it adds pressure. If he overtakes Max in the standings, it might trigger Max's exit clause with Red Bull. That move could open the door to Mercedes and close one on Russell's own seat. This whole situation is a high gamble. It's risky for everyone involved. But Formula One has never been about playing it safe. Everyone here understands the stakes, especially George. The talks he had with Toto were not just hypothetical scenarios anymore. They could lead to real changes that are out of his control. And if things don't go his way at Mercedes, Russell will have to start looking elsewhere. The question is, where Aston Martin could be the next chapter for Russell, and it's not just speculation. The team has shown clear interest in him, seeing him as a potential leader for their 2026 project. And let's not forget, Lawrence Stroll isn't shy when it comes to making bold moves. He understands the importance of grabbing top talent when they're available. Drivers like Russell and Max don't sit around waiting. If the opportunity is missed, someone else will take it. This entire situation is creating a stir across the paddock. With both Russell and Max's futures uncertain, the driver market is heating up faster than expected, and Helmut Marko, he's watching all of this closely, especially Max's next steps. Being one of the closest people to Max at Red Bull, his opinions carry weight, even when they seem overly dramatic. So when he voices concern about Max moving to Mercedes, it's not just noise. It likely reflects real tension inside the Red Bull camp. Marko also didn't miss the chance to throw shade at Russell. According to him, George talks too much. He even hinted that something may have changed since Montreal, maybe referring to Russell's win, and how it might have gone to his head. Marko didn't confirm anything, but his sarcasm was clear. What's going on with Russell? I thought he had a deal for next year. Maybe that changed after his win. All of this adds fuel to a season already full of drama. These mind games, public jabs, and behind-the-scenes talks are exactly what make F1 so unpredictable. And as for Max, the idea of leaving Red Bull might have sounded crazy a year ago, but now, it's starting to feel possible. This ongoing saga is turning the current F1 season into more than just a championship race. It's becoming a battle of strategies off the track. And at the center of it all stands Max Verstappen. A driver once seen as untouchable at Red Bull is now being openly pursued by their biggest rival. That alone shows how quickly things can change in this sport, but Mercedes knows exactly what's at stake. Losing ground in the constructors' battle has forced them to rethink everything, and bringing in a proven winner like Max could be the reset they need. But they also risk disrupting the internal balance that's slowly been building with George and the rising Antonelli from Red Bull's side. Losing Max would be a massive blow, not just because of his skill, but because of how central he's been to their identity during this dominant phase. Helmut Marko understands that better than anyone. He warns that the freedom and influence Max enjoys at Red Bull might not follow him to a stricter, more corporate environment like Mercedes, and that warning isn't just about culture, it's a subtle plea to keep the relationship intact. Still, the tension is growing. From Silverstone onwards, we might see moves that will shape the next era of Formula One. The driver market is no longer just speculation, it's becoming the main story. Max has a contract until 2028, but if his dissatisfaction grows and Mercedes makes the right offer, contracts can always be broken. The biggest question now, if Max makes that switch, how does it affect Russell, Red Bull, and the sport as a whole? Whatever happens, one thing's for sure, Formula One is on the edge of a major shakeup and every team is racing to be on the right side of it when the dust settles.